and welcome back to Warships Blitz with Terry. It's been a long time that we haven't been playing American Battleship Tech Tree, and this is the North Carolina. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the format of this Road to Something series, the way this happens is, well, usually we unlock the ship together. I'll do it while I'm recording. In this case, I've done this already, but I haven't done anything else. The reason I've done this already was because there was a sale on earlier when it was the Independence Day special event, and I did that. But I haven't played the ship, I haven't set the ship up, I haven't done anything else, I've just purchased it. So there's zero XP on this thing, so there's nothing there. The North Carolina, the American Tier 8 battleship. Now, the history of that thing is actually, for me, almost the most fascinating part was in the development of that ship. Because, well, this is the first American battleship that was built in the late 1930s that wasn't dreadfully slow. So, as a background, you need to know that the London and Washington naval treaties had put restrictions on ships, precisely for battleships, because there was an arms race and everybody figured it was too expensive, so they thought, hey, let's make a limit and put a cap on these things. So their standard displacement wasn't supposed to exceed 35,000 tons for battleships, and their armament wasn't supposed to exceed 356 millimeters or 14 inches. So the Americans wanted a battleship that was fast, so it could escort carriers, that was very well armed and very well armored. And all that was supposed to fit in a 35,000 ton empty displacement. Which, of course, if you've ever worked in IT, we've got the same problem. Everything has to be cheap, it has to be performant, and it has to be done quickly. And you can never have all three of these things. And they had the exact same problem, that they went through an enormous amount of design specs. And they had some crazy designs in these things. There was one design specification that looked a lot more like a Nelson, with 3 turrets forward. They had a 12-gun 356 millimeter design. They had a design that had 2 turrets in the rear and a flight deck in the front, or a bunch of catapults, really. It was supposed to be a hybrid carrier, and they figured they would go and catapult float planes off the front and have the guns in the rear. I have no idea what they were drinking at the time they were coming up with these ideas, but fortunately or unfortunately for us, these things never really happened. If anybody from Wargaming is watching, hey, here be an idea for a Tier 7 premium. Just put a flight deck in one of these things and give it a bunch of dive bombers. The Japanese have one of those. It's a crazy ship. Anyway, in the end, they decided for something that was reasonably quick, so they didn't get the 30 knots they wanted. They ended up with about 27-ish. That was okayishly armored, and that had a reasonable amount of guns. And they wanted to stick to the 14-inch or 356 millimeter guns because of the treaty. And President Roosevelt at the time was very much opposed to being the first country that actually broke the treaty. So what they did is they told their ambassador in Japan to, basically put an ultimatum to the Japanese and say, hey, if you're not going to sign up for the 14-inch main caliber treaty limit, then we're going to invoke the escalator clause. And the escalator clause allowed the signatories, like the British, the French, the Americans, to go up to 16 inches or 406 millimeter, I think it's for the Americans. So the Japanese refused. Well, they refused in such that they said they would do it, but only if they were allowed to build as many battleships as the British and the Americans. And they didn't allow that, so the Japanese refused. So the Americans called the escalator clause. And they had already started building the North Carolina, but they had left an option in wisely to switch around the gun caliber afterwards. So they came up then with this design, which is a lot more conventional, which has 2 super firing turrets in the front, 1 turret in the rear, and has 406 millimeter main guns. They did use similar guns to the Colorado, but of a similar caliber. But they had, in the meantime, developed a super heavy shell. So while the Colorado was firing about a 1,000 kilo armor-piercing shell, these things would be able to fire a 1,200 kilo armor-piercing shell. So they were presumably a lot more powerful. Now, one problem they had with these things was in the armor, because previous trials had shown that the armor worked very well as long as there were no waves, which, you know, is a bit of a design oversight, because once you were actually in a wavy environment, it would expose parts, especially lower parts that were close to the magazines that weren't sufficiently armored, and the torpedo protection wasn't all that great either. So there was a lot of patching going on where they thought, oh, maybe we can fit another armor plate over here, maybe another one over there, and then it'll actually be all kind of okay. With that said, she still isn't as well armored as, for example, the Colorado. She doesn't have the same main belt plating, and while they tried to make the best compromise that they could for the limited tonnage that they had available, it still remains a compromise. So she's reasonably okay armored, she's reasonably quick, and she packs a punch, which is not usually you'd normally find in the American battleship line. So far, they've always been focused on tanks, on building floating tanks. This is a bit of a deviation from that principle of floating tanks. The secondaries on this thing are dual purpose, so they can shoot at things like destroyers, and they could shoot upwards at things like airplanes. And they were brutally effective. These are the same 127mm destroyer guns you're finding everywhere, but they were really, really effective against planes at like 3 to 4 kilometers height. And these were floating AA batteries, these things. They've got a whole flurry of anti-aircraft, of main-purpose anti-aircraft guns, plus the dual-purpose secondaries. So we'll see how that all reflects in the game. Let's have a quick look at the statistics. Well, no, actually, let's upgrade the ship first. Blueprints. I'll be right back. Okay, whole blueprints are the one thing I'm always short on, really. One thing you guys have been asking me. Where do I get all those blueprints? Well, blueprint boxes, because they tend to accumulate. I've got like 100 odd or so laying around, really. And I tend to buy them from the fleet shop. So if you're not in a fleet, that's probably one good reason to jump in, because I tend to spend all the fleet currency thing I get from oil on blueprints. So slight diversion. Let's head over to the fleet shop. Fleet shop. And you see, there's blueprints. Okay, I don't necessarily need secondary blueprints. Well, that's this one I'll get. What else do we got? There we go. Hull blueprint. Oh, could have saved myself one. Definitely that one. Torpedo blueprint. This is AA. AA. I usually have enough. Well, let's get this one. So high level blueprints I usually buy in the fleet shop. Okay. Anyway, back to this thing. So what have we got now? We've got almost 48,000 hit points, which is on the lower side of things. The armor plating looks okay, all in all. 22.5% fire and flood resistance obviously is very nice. Torpedo damage reduction isn't the greatest. There are better ships at this tier in terms of torpedo damage protections. And speed, 26 knots. 24 seconds to full speed, 16.8 second turn time. We're going to have to do something about that. That's a bit much. We've got the 406 L45s Mark 6 turrets. These are the more modern turrets than the Colorado ones that I mentioned earlier with the super heavy shells. So yeah, we're seeing that. So 1,900 alpha damage on the main battery AP. That is nice. That is a nice number. 22 second base reload. Okay. But that's something we're going to have to live with. They actually give us 5 degrees per second turret rotation. It's very nice, because the historic ones only did 4. We've got the 127mm dual purpose secondaries. Yep. 10 on each side. 6-second reload, almost 6-kilometer range. Not bad little things, not bad. And the AA, 378 AA damage on the large caliber. That is pretty good. That is pretty good. Surface detection, surprisingly, isn't great. What do we got? We can get range or fire and flooding resistance. Interesting question, actually. I would usually go... I think I'll leave that open for now, because I want to play a couple of rounds first to see how she behaves at range. Because the Colorado was absolutely garbage at range. You couldn't hit the broadside of the barn from a far... Okay. that analogy doesn't work because you have to be far away from the barn. But you know what I mean, right? So you couldn't hit anything from range. So I want to see how well the dispersion works at range. And if it works okay, then I might extend the range, because what's the base range in these things? 14 kilometers. That's actually not bad. That's a decently long range. What ship skills do we have on this? We've still got the rapid reload. Okay. Somebody mentioned that on the comments on one of my last videos, that I'm not using the rapid reload correctly. And yes, I have not actually spent any thought on calculating when is the best time to trigger the rapid reload. I'm going to have to do that and probably make a video about it. Anyway, so let's port our commander from the Colorado. Where is he? There. Colorado, assign you. And we're going to spend 200k for 33,000 XP. That sounds like a reasonable price to pay. Okay. This means he still has a little ways to go to get up full, but that's okay. Good. Okay, auto resupply is on. Let's drop some supplies into this thing. We want reload, we want hit points, and we want turn speed. Okay, auto resupply on. Now, equipment. What can we fit in slot 1? This is an interesting module. I have never played with this. It's the artillery plotting room mod, which extends the firing range, which is basically just what we've seen on the elite bonus. So that might be an interesting option as well. Alternatively, the main battery mod 3 for precision. I don't usually go with... I tried the main battery mod 2 on previous ships, and I did get my turret shot away from under me all the time. So I'm not super excited about that one. I've always thought about a secondary spec, but she doesn't get... I don't know. I'm not sure with this one because of the slightly higher speed and slightly more questionable armor. So let's see. Slot 3, definitely we probably want the steering gear mod 2. So let's put that in. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, that gets us to 14 seconds. That is not great. What do we got on other ships? Well, it's kind of like Tirpitz, Bismarck. Yeah, Richelieu and Roma are in a class of their own, really, with this. But yeah, it might be workable. So we could, so module slot 2, we could go... I know that it's a super common and super popular build to go propulsion in mod 2, in slot 2. I don't know. I've always more tended towards the deck protection mod. Maybe that comes from me playing mostly German battleships. So I'd have to see how flammable this thing actually is. There's an option to put another one in traverse, maybe, but it's probably not that much worth it. So if the fire and flooding protection holds up and she doesn't get burned down permanently, I might actually invest in the propulsion mod. Otherwise, I'll probably go with the deck protection mod. I'll leave that one blank, the same as the first slot, because this equipment starts getting a little bit expensive at this tier, so I don't want to mess around with it too much. And I'll follow up. I'll definitely do a follow-up video. Again, if you're not familiar with the format, what we're doing, this is going to be my extremely very first battle. And no matter how well it works or doesn't, you're going to get to see it. And I'll do another video once I have a bit of experience with these things. But this is just me going to get out. Do we have a camo? Yeah, let's put red alert on it. That'll do. Okay. That looks sufficiently Canadian to trigger people. And our commander is on retraining, so he only has half his skills, which means we don't get the additional rapid reload, and we don't get any of the other skills. But it'll be fine. The first couple of rounds, I'm just going to be getting a hang of the ship anyway. So Usually if I review a ship, I have about 10 to 15 games in her before I make a review, just to get a better idea. But this is going to be the very first game. So let's do it. And here we are on Haunted Seas. I like that map. Bismarck, West Virginia, Cleveland, Miyoko, Algeria, Shiratsuyu, and Mayhan. Okay, let's see how that turns out. Where do we spawn? Okay, down by B. So we've got a cruiser with us. So it's going to be one destroyer over near A probably, which means yep, that Helena. I'm going to stick with that one. I'm going to head for B. Yep. B is our natural cap, and then depending where the enemy team's going, I'll just use that island there in the middle as some cover. And if they come around that corner and push, the Helena should be able to take care of any destroyers that come around, and I'll be giving some heavier gunfire if necessary. Colorado is, given how slow she is, probably going to sit around and defend B. And we can see if we can help someone else out around C-Cup if that becomes necessary, because one of their cruisers has peeled off. So there's only 2 of us going up to C. And we get cruiser support on B. Let's see how that turns out. Okay, somewhere there is going to be something. Okay, someone's capped A, obviously. That'll be one of the destroyers. Maybe. I mean, the Helena just made it into B as well. But it should have been one of the destroyers. Let's see where they're going. Okay, I'm spotted. Can't see what's spotting me. But there's the Bismarck. Okay, we're broadsiding, so I'm gonna have to turn a little bit and see if I can dodge some shots. Yep, he overshot into the superstructure. Okay, first salvo. Let's see how that goes. That doesn't look too bad, actually. It looks better than on the Colorado, really. How many shots do we get on target? 4 out of 9. It's not terrible at 13 kilometers. Okay, we don't have a destroyer spotted yet. I'm gonna slow down and see if I can get another salvo off onto that Bismarck. There we go. Okay, just on max range. See how many shots we get on target. Oh, the Algeria comes around the corner. Oh, that sounds like a good time to use our reload booster and use some secondary fire. The secondaries aren't super accurate. Okay, so let's get one shot into him. That didn't seem to be doing anything. I probably have missed that one. Okay, there comes some torpedoes, so that's the destroyer. But yeah, the Algeria has decided that she wants to broadside the Colorado and me, and that's not it. Oh, that's not the Colorado, that's the West Virginia. And that did not go very well. So the destroyer is sitting behind that corner, but since all our cruisers have buggered off, I don't really feel like dealing with that one right now. So let's see if we can do something about that West Virginia over there. Okay, line her up, shots out. Nope, not in secondary range. Not a super punchy so far. Might have to see if I have to aim a little up. No, she's dead already. Okay. Got killed. Okay, we're 2 kills ahead. We're holding 1 cap. Enemy holds 1 cap. That doesn't look too terrible. Let's see if we can head over towards A cap. Okay, there's the Mayhan. I'm suspecting that the other destroyer is going to try to swing around south towards B. But there are a lot of cruisers defending B cap, so get a couple shots maybe onto the Mayhan. And there comes some Mayhan torpedoes, so these are relatively easy to dodge. I knew that these were coming. Oh, I'm taking fire from the other side. Oh crap. Yeah, I did not see that. I did not see that at all. There was no chance of dodging that one. She is a bit sluggish on the turn. Okay, now we've got the Mayhan. Obviously everyone's trying to set me on fire now because I just burned through my damage control. There's the Miyoko. Get some shots out on that guy. I don't think he's seen me because he's shooting at someone else. But the team's chasing down B cap. So whatever destroyer that was is going to be dead in a second. And we've got a Miyoko to shoot at. Okay, there's 1 permafire on me. How does that look from the dispersion? Not bad. 5 shots. Not bad. Yep, that's the Cleveland. Don't want to see if I can. He can lob the island, so there's not much chance. I'm just gonna reverse out from there. Give him reduced profile, and see that I get a couple shots more onto that Miyoko from over here. Yeah, sometimes the dispersion isn't the greatest. Sometimes it seems to work. So these were 3 shots. I'm definitely starting to feel dispersion mod on this thing. because sometimes they're okay, but sometimes they seem to be a bit trollish, which is a little bit what I had in the Colorado as well. Okay, we are reloaded, and the Miyoko is still giving broadside. And I don't know where the Miyoko's torps are. I would have thought he'd get torpedoes away by now. That was a good one. 6. Still no citadels. 0 citadels so far in this thing, even though we've been shooting at cruisers a fair bit. So, let's see. He's turning around. He's still giving broadside. Trying to set me on fire, obviously. The fire and flooding resistance seems to be holding up really nicely so far. What I'm mildly disappointed for now is the gun penetration, really, because the Mayan takes out the Helen. How did that work? Yeah, it's like I would have expected a little bit more from the guns, especially that these are supposedly the super heavy shells, and we've all seen what a Colorado can do to a French cruiser on 5 kilometers. Would have expected a little bit more, but it's not enough data to make any call on that quite yet. I don't think we're going to be getting back into battle anymore, so module choices. Well, I'm definitely going to be running a couple more experiments, but so far I'm kind of feeling the precision mod for slot 1, and I'm really on the fence for slot 2 here about either propulsion or fire on deck. So I'm gonna have to play a couple more. I usually play a lot of bot games in the beginning to make up my mind about because they shoot a lot of high explosive, and you can just let yourself burn down because you're not letting your team down or anything if you lose those. So just to do that. But yeah, second in the team. We got 2 kills. Very first game in the ship. Turns a bit sluggish, but otherwise not bad. Well, tier 8 is a very competitive tier, so we're gonna have to see how that turns out. Anyway, that's it for me for now, and that was the North Carolina, the tier 8 American battleship, and I will definitely have a follow-up video to let you know how it goes down the road in the grind towards the Iowa. That's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye.